These youngsters are members of a new order. They are growing up within a unique social system, which is by now no longer an experimental lifestyle, but a successful and established way of collective living. They are the children of kibbutz Beit Alpha. Many of them are the third generation of their family to live in Beit Alpha, a kibbutz founded by their parents and grandparents about 50 years ago. It was said in the Bible that on the mountains of Gilboa, the hills on which the youngsters now climb, there would never be forestation, that fire would devour any attempts by man to create a Garden of Eden in this part of the land of Israel. Attempts by kibbutzniks to do so have often been futile. But below the mountain, nestling on the slopes of Gilboa, they have indeed created their own version of a Garden of Eden, a society in which men and women may retain all the faults of the human personality, but a society which remains firmly dedicated to the communal ideal. Kibbutz Beit Alpha is situated in the eastern Galilee, in the north of Israel, the same area where Jewish prophets formulated a key thought which underlies the Judean-Christian heritage. Thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. The heritage of these youngsters is an experiment in utopia, which has now become a daily way of life. Aside from agriculture and industry, the members of Beit Alpha have created a series of fish ponds in this now fertile valley. And it is around these fish ponds that the varied birds of the region gather for food. The birds in many ways symbolize the freedom of the children, a freedom which their grandparents, immigrants to the land of Israel, dreamed of and longed for in order to shape a new Jewish destiny in the state of Israel. All the children are members of the Chevrat Yeladim, the Children's Society, and the rest of the kibbutz views the Children's Society as a separate social order with its own rules, principles, even its own self-management. The Chevrat Yeladim is separate, but it is also an integral part of the kibbutz. For the kibbutz is a child-oriented community, and life often seems to revolve, almost obsessively, around its children and their welfare. The children are Beit Alpha's most cherished treasure. The first contact of the children each morning is with their mitapelet, which might be translated as caregiver, the caretaker of the child's age group. She wakes them, but they dress themselves. The children of Beit Alpha sleep separately from their parents and are organized into small peer groups. Each group lives in its own building within the children's half of the kibbutz. The child, individually, and the entire group gain a sense of responsibility, if not self-sufficiency, at a comparatively young age. The child is not dependent in any practical or economic way on his parents, but rather on the kibbutz as a whole. It is the kibbutz which provides the child and all kibbutz members with food, clothing, housing, and medical care, even his toothbrushes and toothpaste. The kibbutz members call their educational system chinuch mishutaf, or collective education. Classes are relatively informal. Sitting together in a circle with the teacher is about as traditional as kibbutz education gets. The children are discussing the life of the bees, analyzing their experience of the day before when they strolled through the fields of the kibbutz on a nature trip. A general principle of the kibbutz education is learning a variety of subjects through real or simulated life experiences. The classes in kibbutz schoolrooms are, in fact, composed of the child's peer group. They are almost always small classes. The youngsters are encouraged to learn by doing, even when it comes to more abstract subjects. Mathematics for a 7-year-old can sometimes be learned with round buttons, with assigning values to colors, and through individual work by the child. Today, the 7-year-olds of Beit Alpha have decided to become the Tribe of Fire. They are Indians who will learn to live and work together as a group, who will try to survive the dangers of the American Wild West. Their teacher helps them to make from their fancy a reality. Yet it is not just Indians, but the entire history of man that the children come to know. They learn of nature, survival, a different civilization, and how to paint, dance, and dress Indian style. Their simulated life experience is itself an education. The guiding principle of a kibbutz upbringing is more than just preparation for life. It is the creation of a truly socialized personality, one which will function in a democratic society, where private property is non-existent, and the rule of the majority is primary. The Tribe of Fire heads for its camping grounds. The drum beats out the message, danger. The group may be in peril, but it is the group which has to prevail. The Indians successfully conquer their enemies, and now the drum beats out, come to eat. If you are hungry, there is food. Of course, an Indian can sometimes get pretty tired, too, after all that activity. The main principle of learning is by doing, and in the classroom, the children learn the value of weights in the most practical way. What weighs more, rice or beans? Can varying quantities of different substances be equal in weight? By means of her own research and experimentation, Yael has to find an answer to the question. Whoops, not quite. Maybe a few more beans will do the trick. Let's see what happens. That's it. Success. In the same room, at the same time, Shai and Harel are playing chess. The formalities of education have been forsaken for the pure excitement of learning by individual creative work. The young mind is taught to explore on its own, to discover for itself, to learn how to think. Few textbooks, mainly active experimentation. Rivka, the 4-year-old group is calling. This is a big day for them, and for their teacher, Rivka. It is her first day home from the hospital with her new baby. And a new arrival is an occasion for joy, not just for the parents, but for the entire kibbutz, including its children. As in many other kibbutzim, the infants at Beit Alpha live separately from their parents. Rivka meets the mitapelet, the caregiver in charge of the infant house, and the child enters his first home along with the mitapelet and his mother. A young mother is not, in fact, physically separated from her child for long, and she returns to the infant's house at least 5 times a day for the daily feedings. And when the mother can't do the feeding, the father takes over. Although the mitapelet assumes more and more of the basic work during the first year of the child's life, the infant's house is always open to the parents. If there are disagreements about how to handle a child, the parent and the mitapelet might talk it over, sometimes with other members of the kibbutz. Though the economic relationship of the nuclear family is removed, the love and dependence between parent and child seems no less strong. By the time the child is 3, the process of socialization has begun. The child, because he has been living with his peers and not with parents, has acquired a more enlarged sense of family, one filled with brothers and sisters. Still, there is time for individual work and the development of individual creativity. The children learn to work with colors, to make their own unique creations. The metapelet and their teacher are always there to help them, and there is constant individualized attention given to the needs of each youngster. The rural world of the kibbutz is always open to the child. On their daily strolls throughout the kibbutz grounds, they can become familiar with any variety of subjects. The children are never far from their parents. A chance meeting is almost the rule rather than the exception. Above all, unlike the urban child, the children of Beit Alpha are close to nature, and they learn to appreciate and cherish its beauty. They also have a chance to learn about the animals of the kibbutz. The cows are a welcome diversion on any stroll. The world of the kibbutz becomes a microcosm in which almost every subject can be learned, every subject taught, for the subject is life itself. By feeding the animals, their own appetite is whetted. They share the oranges among themselves and the orange peels with the cows. But when the children get older, there are many subjects that cannot be taught by life experience. A class of 12-year-olds learns through individual experimentation. Numbers are assigned color values, and the children learn complicated mathematics through their own formulations. The children are learning the truth of the Pythagorean theory, that the sides of a triangle squared equal the value of the hypotenuse squared. Michal must take her colored cardboard pieces, proceed to the blackboard, and confirm their value by size as well as color. When she gets back to her seat, she begins to make her computations. The teacher participates with the children in learning, lending a helping hand when necessary. The children sit in groups of 4. For Michal or for Danny, it all seems rather easy. It is perhaps an obvious truth that kibbutz education is not square, and physical activity is an important part of education at the kibbutz. Beit Alpha now has a swimming pool, which is a focus of kibbutz life in the hot weather of eastern Galilee, and is also a focus of the children's sporting activities. The best sports teams in Israel come from the kibbutzim, and Beit Alpha is known for its star basketball and swimming teams. The stress is on group teamwork, or non-competitive bodybuilding. A cardinal tenet of the kibbutz movement is equality between the sexes, and boys and girls at Beit Alpha play together without distinction, as well as live together and grow up together. They tend to look upon each other as brothers and sisters. For whatever the reason, boys and girls from the same group rarely marry each other. In the middle of the children's society, there is a small farmyard, kept and maintained by the children themselves. They do the feeding and the cleaning up. Each age group has its assigned duties, and the children begin to learn not only a love for animals, but a responsibility in the management of a kibbutz enterprise. The children themselves decide who does what. They are all prepared to do the easy work and also the dirty work, though like anyone else, they'll complain about it at times. The kibbutz movement began with a total dedication to the value of labor, and agricultural labor in particular. These youngsters are in training to become, at one and the same time, farmers and intellectuals. The monkey and the kibbutz peacocks are especially prized possessions. The little hamster is called motek, because this youngster likes him best. Unlike urban children, even in Israel, the youngsters of Beit Alpha are close to nature. Danny is the smallest member of the 12-year-old class, and he is also one of the most ambitious in mastering a given sport or hobby. Danny is in love with horses, and at the age of 12, he has full access to the kibbutz stable. Despite the togetherness of kibbutz life, there is still time for a youngster to be alone, to pursue what he wants to do. It is said in Hungarian that the pepper may be little, but it is also hot, and such is the case with Danny. He loves music and loves to ride, either alone or with friends, through the fields and orchards of the kibbutz. Danny's focus on horses reflects itself in the twice-a-week art classes of the 12-year-old group. His interest is encouraged, and his preoccupation with horses is considered a natural form of self-expression. The children of Beit Alpha are brought up as socialists in the broader sense, as Democrats and as Israelis. Directly beside the kibbutz is a remnant of a 5th century synagogue in which the Jews of yesteryear once prayed and worshipped. The children of Beit Alpha are not taught to believe in God, but the synagogue, with its stunning mosaic floor, which recounts the story of Abraham and Isaac, is a source of study and inspiration. Every available teaching instrument, and especially those stemming from the immediate surroundings of the kibbutz, are used to make education in life a rich experience for the children of Beit Alpha. They are copying from both the ancient Greek and Hebrew the words and pictures which recount the basic story in the history of the Jewish people and Jewish faith. Jewish holidays in the life of secular Israel and the firmly anti-religious kibbutzniks of Beit Alpha are not so much religious as national holidays. Hanukkah commemorates the Jewish fight for freedom against the corrupting snare of Hellenic or Greek civilization some 2,200 years ago. The children have created their own Chanukiot, or Hanukkah lights. For the children of Beit Alpha, a special time of day comes after the afternoon nap. This is the children's period, those precious 4 or 5 hours when families meet, when the day's work is done, when father and son have the chance to